Otito niile dịrị Chineke, ụbọchị dị elu, Chukwu obiọma, Chidi ebere, Olisa nwa amara, ka ụzọ anyị niile ọ bụla bụrụ ihe, ka ihe ọbụla kpatara aka bụrụ sọ mma, ka ụwa niile site n'ozi ọma anyị nwụsị obi aṅụrị, taa na ebighị ebi, ọfọ, ya gazie, ise o. All praises to Chi, the Creator, the Supreme Being, Chi the Good, Chi the Merciful, Chi the Magnificent with grace. Let everywhere of our lives be light, let all our acts be crowned with good, and may the world prosper from our ministry, now and forever. So let it be. Amen.
So,
You say,
Dibia, how are you today?
I am good. You say, did no chang chang.
You know what? I want to apologize to our audience. We started a little bit late, certain things happened, so we're not going to dwell on that. But here we are, and we are grateful to be here. And we're glad that you're able to join us if you're able to join us. But if you're not able to join us at the moment, you certainly can view this episode at a time that's most convenient for you. But welcome to another episode of Chiism Live, where we gather around the table for deep conversations about African spirituality. I'm your host, Dibia Dr. Wanyo Simmery. And of course, you've heard from my co-host, Dibia Yudi Onyoha, Dibia Mamao. Just welcome. I'm truly grateful, and we are truly grateful to be here with all of you today. Now, before we dive in, I want us to take a moment to express our gratitude to the divine for this opportunity to continue engaging with the living. There are so many people who don't have this opportunity, but here we are. Isn't that wonderful? I love it. So thank you, Chineke. On behalf of everybody walking amongst the living today, on off your nose, wherever you find yourself in the view of others, and the view of the universe. Thank you for this blessing. And Bononota, we are going to agree that we are like birds. Today we are not going to run into any challenges. The birds that fly. Many of us don't even consider that the birds just keep flying, but they don't seem to run into trees. How many birds have you seen that have hit a tree and then you look down there on the floor? It could be because of they're learning how to fly, or their wings have been clipped, but it's certainly not because they hit a tree. Okay, and so shall it be with us. Today, we are going to walk in holy boldness. Nothing is going to block our path. That's it. I am people. We are going to walk wherever we choose today, because we are Chiso. We're walking with the divine. So nothing is going to intrude, nothing is going to hurt us, nothing is going to touch our feet. We are going to step, and if we see any obstacles in the way, we are going to learn to weave and bob and get out of the way. We're going to continue climbing. We are not going to look down. And anybody who today wants to pull us down, they're wasting their time, because the good news is that you know, once Chineke has given you the path to go, there's nothing anybody can do to pull you back. So we are going to climb today. Yeah, and we're going to be like the dogs. I like to use this phrase because the dogs never drown. Now, all of us, we have problems. Yeah, you know, some of us have financial problems. We can't pay a rent, or we can't pay the car note, or whatever. You know, but those things are not going to swallow us whole. We are going to overcome that. Those things shall pass. And that is what we're asking Chineke to do for us today. You know, Chineke biko no ai na ifu no ai na so no ai na akoko no ai no pa. Ibo bla ijekwa ho tata obro gunzu. We can oversee that. Everything we touch today is going to turn into gold. Maybe it's small gold, maybe for some of us large, but it's going to be okay. You have to understand that anything that you're going through today is a temporary situation. That too shall pass. You may not believe it, but it is the truth. As long as you're working with Chineke, if on bola, no chinigozo, if on jaw fine ta, any bad thing that sees us today will go. If it's in front of us, we'll be behind it. If it's to the right of us, we'll be to the left of it. If it's to the left of it, we'll be to the right of it. We know we can overcome anything because Anyana Chiso. That's something in your head. Okay, so you're experiencing this, and there's nothing that we're going to see today that's not designed to make us greater. Everything is designed to make us feel better, to show us what we can or cannot do. But every lesson today will be well taken and will be used for our greater good. And so it is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to keep the spirit of this show alive, we need your support. Subscribe to our channel and become a vital part of our journey. Now, please do. Remember, it's not enough for you to just come and listen to us. If you want us to continue to bring you information that you can add to your repertoire, then it's important that you support this channel. We are at 600 something. We shouldn't be at 600 and something right now. We should have more subscribers. We should have more subscriptions because what we present
message to is poignant. Yes.
You know, you need what we have to share. You know, at least have it and add to your repertoire. If you're subscribed, then you know when we are on we're coming on air, so that you can join us. All right. So subscription brings us more inspiring content, helps us bring more inspiring content to your ears. So please subscribe today. Now we're going to go on to the topic at hand, spiritual courage. Now, I'm going to speak on it from one perspective, and Dibia Yudi is going to speak on it from what perspective, another perspective. You may already have your own perspective, and that's okay. The point of the matter being that the more information you have and add to your repertoire, the more knowledge you have. All right. So it doesn't hurt to hear what we present to you today. Courage is often seen merely as the ability to confront fear or adversity. But spiritual courage is looked at differently. When we look at it through a spiritual lens, then courage transforms into a profound act of faith and integrity, and the courage to say no. Because when we say no, we begin the process of connecting deeply with our values, our beliefs, and our sense of existence. It takes courage to go within. You know, we must using courage, we find a quiet time that is essential for our spiritual growth. Many of us have challenges in this world because we're disconnected from the divine. And the only way that you can get connected to the divine is in solitude. In solitude, then we are connecting deeply with our inner selves, allowing reflection on our journeys and the world around us. We can't always be where everybody wants us to be. And people always want to say, I can tell you how many invitations I get. Oh, join us here. Come and speak here. All of that. But for me, most of the time, I say no. Not because I'm trying to be rude, not because I don't like the people, but because I've got to find time to connect with my inner self. I have to find time to connect with my journey and the world around me. And I can't do it with all the noise of the world. I can't do it every time, I have to be here and be here. And for many of you, for the most part, you find time only when you go to bed. You find time only when you go to bed. But you should make time for yourself and the divine. Munachiso. How can you minachiso when you can't find the time to actually make that connection so that you can take the connection with you after you have met with Chineke, so to speak, then you know where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, and then you take that into the world. But if you're heading into the world disconnected and all of that, you have challenges. Most people think, because we're in the age of smartphones and this constant connectivity, we think because anytime that we're not connected, then we have a lonely life. No, that's a paradox of loneliness. No. We think that if we're not connected with the world, then that's a paradox of loneliness. We become accustomed to virtual interactions, constant interactions, and then we wonder why sometimes we're just confused, because there's so much things hitting us at one time, and we find ourselves trying to understand what's going on. But you can't understand what's going on if you don't find a moment to actually think about it. We miss the profound richness of being alone with our thoughts. It's okay. Sometimes they make it seem like somebody who's lonely is an oddity. It's not an oddity. A lot of people have, that's why when you have some of the spiritual leaders, they go up to the mountains and just to be alone, to reaffirm their connection with the divine. The monks, the Buddhist monks, etc. That's what they do. That reconnection is so important, because once you find yourself, you're better able to work with the world, connect with the world. So being alone with your thoughts is not a bad thing. That's spiritual courage. But you have to be able to say, okay, no, I can't be a part of whatever you're doing. I'm good. I'm going to function on my own. So solitude is not merely an absence of noise, but a sacred space for introspection. Have the courage to find a space where you can listen, even just listen to the music flow, talk to Chineke, and listen, and you will hear, as we say, it's in solitude that you hear the voice of the divine speaking to you. And it is in solitude that you can ask the questions about your behavior, to ponder your path, and understand your place within this greater tapestry of existence. Many of us don't know. We let's go. Don't be scared. Let's just go. No. For centuries, many African cultures have cherished the quiet life, viewing it as a profound luxury. It's not uncommon for you to see, if you go to the village, you see an old man just sitting by himself, not surrounded by anything, but just sitting there by himself, surrounded by the beauty of nature. The sacred time, it helps you foster awareness and connection with the universe. This universe that we live under, we should be able to understand how it impacts us, even in small ways. But you can't do that when you're constantly running your mouth and you're around people raising all kinds of stink. And you wonder why you are so confused half the time. So you need to have the courage and find moments of stillness so that you can cultivate a deeper understanding of your spirit and the world. It is a luxury. The luxury of solitude nurtures a more harmonious way of living. You have to learn to say no so you can develop spirit. And that is spiritual courage. Do you have it? How many of you have spiritual courage? So it's important for us to reclaim the sacred time, honoring the wisdom of the ancestors, And when they say mechono gente, shut up and listen. Not just listen to other people talking, but listen to the voice of the divine. Listen to nature. Just shut up and listen. Gente.
Yep.
In so doing, ladies and gentlemen, we enrich our spirit, our spiritual lives, and foster a more meaningful existence. So today I'm asking you to understand that courage is beyond the absence of fear. Courage is your ability to say no, to become retrospective, to go inward without the permission of anybody. And you don't need anybody's permission. It's your time. When we say monachiso, it is time. It is your time to be one with the divine. I don't care how often you do it. If you choose to do it a whole day, it's okay. If you choose to do it 20 minutes, whatever time frame allows you to pause, inhale and exhale, and be one with the divine by yourself, there is no shame in that. I personally find it quite fulfilling. I used to, when I was younger, Dibia UD, I don't know about you, but when I was a lot younger, I loved to be with people. I love to do, I have to be here. If you look, where's Owa? She's there. Where's Owa? She's there.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, I've found that all those being here, there, and neither, is not really very, very spiritually rewarding. So when you embrace spiritual courage, you're able to face challenges with resilience and authenticity. Dibia UD, that is my contribution to that conversation to this point. What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's a deep, deep topic because, again, like you had mentioned, and by the way, very, very good presentation. But courage is just a part of everyday life. It's something that we do it because we don't have any other choice, right? Without courage, you pretty much can't do anything. Going to work, get married, having a family, all that kind of stuff. It all requires courage because you have to give up something. And usually what you have to give up is fear. But once you give that up, then courage sinks in. And if you tap into that, then your chances of improving your condition is elevated, okay? It's higher. Courage, by definition, in Igbo language, is called obike. Somebody with a strong heart, somebody who is willing, to put themselves in the front line, either to protect something that is valuable to themselves, or to protect somebody else just because they have moral clarity that their action is what is required, for that moment. Courage is the choice to control agony, danger, or intimidation, despite the feeling of fear. Right? But before you can address courage, you have to address fear. Now, what is fear? Okay. Fear is an unpleasant, universal human emotion triggered by the perception of danger, whatever that danger may be. It might be a fear you're going into battle and you have this perception that you're going to be shot at and bombs and stuff is going to be going on. You have a fear of investing money because you feel like if you pull in money, you might lose that money. So fear holds you back from being bullish in the stock market, stuff like that. Somebody is intimidating or bullying somebody you care about or bullying you, but you're not fighting back because you're scared that if you fight back, something may really worse than what is happening to you right now will happen to you. So fear holds you back. But then to deal with fear, you have to have courage. And without courage, you can't deal with fear. Now, as far as fear is concerned, there's a lot of physical things that happen when you're afraid. But we're not going to get into, that. I think I'll probably leave that up to Dibia, Dr. Osimiri, because, she's a clinical psychologist. So she's a scientist, by trade. So we'll understand that a whole lot better than I can. I could give you definitions and stuff like that, but in the end, she has a little bit more expertise than I have, to talk about the physical and biological effects of being fear. But I can tell you a little bit about the psychological aspect of it. And, you could talk about rational versus irrational fear. Rational fear protects us from physical harm, whereas irrational, persistent and disproportionate fear, are known as phobias. Right. And those things can hold you. They're two different things. And when people have phobia, like height, keeps you from maybe getting on an airplane or doing some outdoor activities that requires that you do something, that gets you off the ground. So you have this fear of height and stuff like that. Then you could have acute or chronic fear, which means, your way of living, you're very alarmed about stuff. You hear a little noise and woo, you shake, you have this fear. Then you got everyday fear beyond physical danger. The psychological fear, stems from the deeper emotional vulnerabilities, right? Such as fear of failure or rejection or, being feeling of inadequacy, right? And how you say scientifically, again, Dr. O has a bit more perspective than I do. She could give you a little bit more in-depth perspective on managing fear. But I want to look at fear from a totally different perspective, something that I know that everybody is familiar with, and that is the Black suffrage, right? And it's global. African Americans, British, Black, it doesn't really matter where you are on the continent. We all seem to have the same issues with people that are not melanated, that have prejudices and racist attitudes and over, melanated people. And actually, went a step further to define what a civilized human being, is versus a lower primate, an animal, stuff like that, where oppressed people were categorized, or melanated people were categorized as less than human, right? African suffrage has historically referred to, both the fight, by African Americans here about voting rights in the United States and the struggle for universal, access across the nations of the African continent. This is a condition that we have suffered for over 400 years and beyond. Started with the Arabs, then, the Europeans came in, and I'm talking about slavery and colonization and the Stockholm syndrome and all the negativity that comes out of that experience that has created a level of fear that courage becomes subdued, right? Courage to question your history that was taught to you by those people that continuously take away your freedom. You become vulnerable to clown games, listening to lies, allowing somebody else to define you because you're afraid that if you question that something will, number one, happen to you physically, or number two, if you question what you're being told spiritually, when you die, you end up in this hellish place, in a place where it is eternal suffering for you or eternal bliss, if you adhered to the principles and philosophies of your conqueror or your enslaver. So you have this choice. Neither one is good for you. Because if you seek the heaven they promise you, then it means that you'll be controlled with fear that if you do not do what they want, you end up in this hell that was defined for you. So your behavior is controlled, and all of a sudden, courage becomes a fleeting notion. And we know that with courage, which is the only requirement that you need, you can overcome fear. And if you have the courage to overcome fear, you can better your condition. And we have examples over the centuries of very courageous people in the line of melanated people beyond the African continent itself. And if you talk about us, now you're talking about really courageous people. You talk about people like Hannibal that confronted Rome. You talk about the Kwame Nkrumahs that talked about African freedom and being independent, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Ahanke Okonyo that talked about African spirituality and challenged Western notion about what Africans think about the divine, the difference between the two. He had enough courage to come out and do that he ended up at the United Nations as a member and addressed the General Assembly on world disarmament starting from 1978 until his passing. That required courage, the Martin Luther Kings, that we're not going to put up with the constant harassment and suffering that Black people, African Americans, are going through here in the United States. He took courage and he took a bullet. So did Malcolm X, Stephen Biko, the Jomo Kenyattas, okay, the Abraham, Traore, modern day heroes, people that had courage to question authority and say, I am what I am by the grace of God. I have a right to demand better. You don't have a right to have me under your jackboot. Okay? You have people like that. People that change the names of the country from the colonial names that were given, like Upper Volta, that became Burkina Faso. We have Mandela, Nelson Mandela. We have a lot of heroes. We have a lot of heroes like Chinua Achebe, who through his literary works exposed the mentality of the African and gave us a better perspective of what was really happening to us by this European and Arab invasion. We have example of such courageous people. But without courage, you can't deal with fear. And fear, as we know, interrupts with courage, but you have to compartmentalize fear. You have to put it in different compartments because you have to have an understanding that without courage, you can't get rid of fear. And if you can't get rid of fear, you lose your freedoms. It's simple. A lot of African people, should I say, we're in the condition that we are in today because of fear. We don't have enough courage to question what we've been taught. We compare our lives to those people, for example, that are not do not adhere to the Abrahamic religion or the Islamic faith, right? The Abrahamic religion, Judaism, Islamic faith, and of course Christianism, that pretty much has this modus operandi of fighting for God, going out and invading people and causing so much pain and harm, annihilation of a whole community of humans, all because you have defined them as less than human, even though whatever it is that you consider your civilization, the writing, whatever it is that you consider yourself as being civilized, was taught to you by people of African ancestry. The Moors and so on and so forth. I wrote a book, Why the Devil Was Painted Black, and was addressing that. When Black people ruled Europe, which is not taught in school, so we have no idea what our history really looks like. We always look at our history from this point of view of subjugation. So not having knowledge beyond this subjugation history that we have, which is part of our history, but we forget that it's just a slither of time, just a little bit of time. And beyond that, before that, there's a whole centuries, millenniums of advancement by people of African ancestry that is never taught in school. Why is it not taught in school? That also requires courage. But why don't you have the courage? Because of fear. And if you have fear, then you don't question anything. Even if you feel that something is wrong, fear will not let you question anything because of the consequences that you think is attached with you questioning. And that's irrational. But you have to understand one thing. You have to question everything to be free. You have to know yourself. And if you don't have courage, you can't know yourself. You will never understand your history. You will never know where you've been, where you are now, and what you need to do to be truly emancipated. Because emancipation is just not about the mental, the physical change around your arms and your legs. It's also the mental one. Your God that doesn't look like you anymore. Your educational system that is not yours. Your belief that everything that you consider civilized about you was given to you by your enslaver and your colonizer. You justify your worth by standards that are not of your own choosing. And I will say this, please understand that really what's keeping us from being courageous is fear of going to hell or going to heaven. That is the truth. Whether you're Muslim or whether you're Christian, they all preach the same thing. But I will say this, and you know, we welcome Dibia Chiedos here, and he could add to what I'm saying. Just understand, if you want to break this fear, because your problem as a Black person is the idea that you don't seem to want to question Abrahamic religions. And that's really what's holding us all back. No matter how you look at it, no matter what you think, it is the, how you say, the Abrahamic religion that is keeping us back, whether you're Muslim, Judaism, or Christian. But let me just say this. If heaven is real, do you think your colonizer and your enslaver will tell you about it and actually create a condition for you to get in there? Keep that in mind as we welcome Dibia Chiedos Okoro. And that's my,
you know,
my little bit.
And that's just the thing. Part of courage is, it doesn't mean that you don't have to be a part, because a lot of what we adhere to is based on the fact that we get social interaction. You know, some individuals feel that, you know, they have to be with such people, or this person or that person, or this group or that group, for them to be relevant, or them, you know, for them to have the social interaction that they think is necessary. So a lot of them believe what they believe, not necessarily because it's real to them, is because of this ability to socialize. So they don't have the courage to question or separate themselves from untruths. They just stay there because, you know, it helps them interact with other human beings. And like I said earlier, spiritual courage allows you to say no to all that myriad of interactions. You should be able to know, you know, to be reflective, to go in within, so that you can find yourself and understand yourself and not live by the dictates of others. Now, Dibia Chiedos, welcome. Welcome today.
Okay, man.
Sorry, I'm appearing odd.
No, that's all right.
You're good,
we're
man.
going to
You're
work
good.
with you so that you can have your background intact next time.
You're good.
Dibia Chiedos, I received some documents from you that I thought was really very interesting. And I think it has to do with courage as well. The courage for us to understand our level of intelligence that people have not tapped into, are not interested in tapping into. And I would like you to just speak on the audacity of talking about AI, and AI not necessarily more than who we are as Igbo people, so to speak. You know, can you? I sent you a text and I asked you if you could speak on that a little bit today.
Yes, I think I saw that late, although I said I was afraid I'm not prepared, but I think I went through some of the things they want to do. And I like the courage in the sense that some of these people are clergymen, but clergymen who have been caught up by the spirit of the ancestors, like Bona Christus, who is himself an Alpha priest. And what they're doing there, when I saw some of the curriculum, I just remember what Chist Mahadum is all about, doing the African thing and not being intimidated. And I compared it with what is happening in Oduduwa University. Oduduwa University bears the name, but the curriculum is still Western. But these people are talking about African AI, and they are doing exactly what we have been talking here. Knowing they are talking about not even African AI, they are talking about AI and Igbo culture. And so they are bringing most of those things we call our ROC and seeing the AI angle into it. Seeing that we study the spirituality and how we can merge contemporary genres with our own traditional methods. And if we do this, like I've always argued on several platforms, if we're able to do this, we will discover something new that will baffle us, and then it will amaze the entire world. Because this is exactly what Asia has done. That's what we mean by decolonization.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be best if we can do this in Igbo language.
I think it's frozen.
Okay. Dibia Chedo's is frozen.
Because you cannot talk about decolonization. Yes. So you cannot talk about decolonization using foreign language. Because language and the mind go together. In fact, language is the vehicle of the mind.
Yep.
Okay, he's frozen again.
But I see what he's saying though, and I didn't want to continue mine until he says something.
It's part of what we're saying. It's here there are no masts closed, so the waves fluctuate. As soon as there's any little air or wind, it will fluctuate. So that's the problem here. So the thing that we are talking about here is that language goes with mind. It is a vehicle for mind to communicate its content. And that's why I disagree with philosophers who say that we do not need to do African philosophy in African language. And the argument is that philosophy is about thinking, it's not about language. And I told them that they should go back to modern analytic tradition, or that which some people call contemporary analytic tradition. Those Western philosophers, mostly from background of Europe, Germany, Britain, who argued that the problem of philosophy is a problem of using jargon. And so that the more we use language precisely, clearly, the less we're going to have a philosophic problem. And so that formed the background of what we call today, we study as linguistic philosophy in the West.
Yes.
If you look at the way they write, you discover that they are concerned about meaning. And when you are concerned about meaning, it means analysis is breaking every term that you use and connecting them. What is that? Is that not language? And they say, if you philosophize in African language, who will buy? And I go back to Fela. I said, Fela asked the question, if we don't sell ourselves and buy ourselves, who will sell us? Who will buy us?
And that's it. Courage.
And he sang it, after he sang it in English, he sang it in Yoruba, and he sang it, you say, Shetiwani mi ofe, Shetiwani mi ora. She na our own, I no want. I no want. She na our own, I no buy. Obonkani, I chop him. Obonkani, I give me a go.
Yep. Self-hatred.
That's exactly what I made Dibia Round talking about, lack of courage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And this is topmost among our leadership.
Yeah.
By the time he wrote that song, Buy Africa, and he saw a minister, I think that should be early 70s, or was it in the late 60s? But I think it should be early 70s. He walked up to the minister in the cabinet and he said he did a song, Buy Africa. He said the man was looking like Maureen the goat in Animal Farm. The incisors teeth are all there, mopping. And the man could not understand Jack. So that was when Fela started attacking the leadership. It was from that experience that he started attacking the leadership. Because like our own elders will say,
Yeah.
Once the head of the fish is rotting, the fish is gone.
That's it.
Yes.
Because no matter what we say, the leadership determines the mentality and temperament of the followership.
That's
100%,
right.
100%.
Yes, although we agree that over time, the followership get more sensible and begin to coordinate themselves. But that is if they use their own language, then
Yes.
they will be able to muster force. There will be cohesion. Because the language will resonate with the mind, and the mind will resonate with morals. It will resonate with being a person.
Yes.
So if you don't use your language, it means you don't have a mind. Because like the Igbo will say, nka determines what oku will be, which is why Igbos have the expression odon kanoku, meaning that such individual sifts his thought before he speaks. So his thought shapes his speech.
Yes, not the other way around.
One who does not have, who have not been able to match nka and oku will say, oh, maybe. And when we are going for settlement or to seek for something important, don't put him in the group. Yes, that man that sifts thought before he speaks, he said, that's the man we should go.
That's it.
So thought shapes language. Language in turn shapes thought. So when you don't have a language, you don't have a mind. That's what it means. You don't have a mind. If you don't have a mind, you don't have, without mind, there is no social structure, no morals, no law, no education, no God. Everything will be foreign. And once everything is foreign, then
I think we're frozen again.
Yeah.
He's okay.
It's talking about justifying your worth by standards.
Let's see him. Let's see if he's able to come in. Okay, if he's not able to come in, I'm going to remove him right now, and so we can continue our conversation. And I'll let him explain what he's talking about. He does come back, but let's talk about living our truth. And this is quite frankly part of what you've talked about and he's talked about. And that is, our spiritual courage requires us to stand firm in our beliefs and values. And that's what we're not doing. We're not doing that. There's a young man, Yudi, that I don't know. I don't remember his name, but he is quite a remarkable young man. And he takes the Bible and dissects it and makes humor out of it. Right, and you probably have seen.
I know who you're talking about. He's always with a self-camera talking to the camera.
Yes.
Very funny guy. I post his stuff all the time.
And if you look at him, it's not just the humor, it's how he's using humor, right?
Yeah.
To teach truth. And he's able to do that because he is speaking the truth. He is using it. It takes courage for you to live in Nigeria and speak like that. But he knows that the only way our people would really pay attention is through humor. And through that humor, you begin to dissect all the falsities that we have, our people are taught. So it encourages, having the courage encourages us to speak our truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And living in Nigeria, it is uncomfortable to speak the truth, and to advocate for justice and compassion in the face of adversity. And we'll go more into that. Like I think Chedozie, okay, are you able to
let me just
continue with your presentation. You had frozen
no problem
right there.
So to Kambo and Kenke, because of the fluctuating network over here.
Okay.
So
all right.
The university, the idea, everything about it is okay. But since it's domicile in Abariam, Igbo land, I think they should not be concerned about the number they turn out. They should be concerned about the quality they produce.
Yes.
So if you
Everything
should
takes
ask,
time.
if you ask me, I think, like I was saying, they should have inside it primary, secondary schools, making sure that in those primary and secondary schools, weekend they teach them Igbo, like the Chief Mahadum has. They are taught Igbo, and then they should the first grade of scholars can translate most of their thought in English, but whatever they are translating should be in Igbo. Whatever they are writing is in Igbo. Concept, they can take concepts like Onka, they can take concepts like Amadioha, they can take any Igbo concept and begin to dissect it. That's exactly what those from psychology will dissect the psychology, those in philosophy will dissect the philosophy, those in AI will dissect the AI. But they should look into future of making sure that 20 years from now, we have Igbo scholars who from primary to secondary school are literate in Igbo and should be trained in such university in preparation for the future, because that is where we are going. If we don't do that, there will be nothing like decolonization, because decolonization is a technical word for modernization. You cannot modernize when you are not using your language, because if you are not using your language, you are not thinking. That is just it.
That's it.
You are not thinking. If thinking is not your language, you are not developing. And thinking is the foundation of all physical development. That is the story of Chukwu Okike Abiama. That everything that is physical is determined by the non-physical. All the physical edifices we see are anchored by principles that are not physical. And that is how thought is the foundation. Mind, thinking is the foundation of all physical development in the human realm. And so a civilization that is not thinking in their own language, such civilization is not developing. And that is why nations that are wise begin university from humanities. Because if you have not defined what you are, the person, the kind of human beings you want to bring up, that nation cannot define its trajectory. They will. Yeah,
that is so true. That is so true. And quite frankly, the reason why sometimes you see children who don't speak English, and they are brought into a setting where they have to learn not from the language that their parents have taught them or their communities speak or their cultural language. These kids are supposed to learn through a new language. And what that does, it stalls their ability to express. All right. So they spend more time learning a new language than actually learning. So you always find that they are behind, right? And then if they're attending a school, for instance, where the language is English, right? They are being encouraged and expected to learn that language so that they can express themselves in that language. Whereas these kids are knowledgeable enough if they can express themselves in their language. So if you're going to train them in your schools, make sure you train them in the language they're familiar with, because their thought patterns, everything is formed because of that language, through that language, right? But when you present them in a school where, it's like the children, Asian children, Mexican children who don't speak the language, the first thing they have to do is pick up the language of this the educational system. So it always seems like they are behind, but they're not really behind. If you teach them in their language that they learned from birth, you'll find that they are more expressive, and whatever it is that you're talking about, they can express it, they can digest it, they can understand it better in their own language. So I agree wholeheartedly whatever the languages are, we need to teach our children in their own language, their primordial language, so to speak. Because that's how they learned when they were children. That's what your mother or father said. It's again, all of that. That's their language. But then instead of you asking them to express themselves in that language, you want them to express themselves in what did you mean? Where are you going? All of that. They don't know that. They have to relearn. You see what? So you're really holding them back. You know, you're really, people people say, oh, you still speak Igbo. Ah, you lived in America all these years and you speak. I cannot not speak Igbo. I was raised with the language, so it stays with you for the rest of your life. So you can speak English, but you can speak Igbo as well. And when I speak Igbo, I don't just speak regular Igbo. I'm assume all
No, to support what you are saying, when you ask me to speak general Igbo, but if I speak my dialect,
that's
it.
It's true.
You see, it's true. So that what you're saying is very true. And if people can just have the courage to evaluate what really is real, who am I? And use the knowledge to face the world. You know, sometimes when I go to a school where I make presentations in some American schools, you know, and I notice that the African-American children, you know, are kind of subdued when they're in a European classroom. The European kids are asking me questions, they're throwing questions at me, but some of our children just don't say anything. You know, they just sit back. Because a lot of our children in African-American communities, households, they are taught differently, particularly the boys. The boys are boisterous. You know, in their family, they're boisterous. The parents let them talk. You know, they express themselves. You know, but when they come to the environment, this European environment, they are not expected to act according to how they are raised. They act according to what the classroom says. They have to know the classroom language. They have to know the classroom mannerisms. You know, if you're a little bit out of, you know, if you try to express your Africanness, then there's something wrong with you. Then we have to send you to the teachers, to the principal's office and all that sort of thing. You know, so it is confusing for our children to live in an environment where they're not encouraged to be who they are. And part of who they are is their language. Okay, so I really thoroughly agree with you that language is an imperative, and I'm so proud that the Mahadum is going to be teaching a lot of it in Igbo, so that and of course, you know, those who don't know Igbo, you know, we have the English equivalents, but it takes courage for us to say, hey, listen, you know, this is who we are, and we need to learn accordingly. Now, I would just say this, and I'll pass this to Yudi. When I was in Nigeria, I think I've shared this before, but it was quite disturbing for me. This little precious little girl, just as cute as she wants to be, dressed up in her, you know, European type, you know, with the hair ribbons and the socks and the cute little pink dress. And oh, she looked very European, except she's black. And I'm asking the mother, you know, I said, oh, she looks quite lovely, you know. The mother told me, oh, no, I said, on Igbo. She know how to speak Igbo. The mother said, oh, no. She doesn't know how to speak that thing. Think about what I'm saying to you. She doesn't know how to speak that thing. So there's no value attached to the language. The mother has made that clear. That is that thing. I want her, you speak to her in English, says the mother. So I say, well, is she, where does she live? I know Igbo kono. When I live Igbo, but when I live on Igbo, she lives in Igbo land, but she can't speak Igbo. And you seem to think that's a good thing. And she thought it was a good thing. She didn't want me to speak that. By the time I was done, of course, she felt a little embarrassed. I said to you, you got, yes, Dibia. Go on, you, Dibia, where you raised your hand. Dibia,
I just want to say that we realize the importance of our language more in the diaspora than here at home. Because here, our mind is colonized. And we seem to see that the language you call lingua franca is one that gives you a job. And our education is about getting certificates. It's not about, it's getting certificated to earn a job. It's not about getting thoroughly educated. So in terms, we are mostly literate. So if you are an engineer, what you have gathered is literacy in engineering. You are not truly an engineer, because what makes the engineer is the ebia. Ebia bia kwasonye ye ikenga ya aputa. Onye ebia da kwasara. Ya bụ onye ọkpụ ụzụ, ya eme ụzụ na akpụ ụzụ, which is engineering. All kinds of departments of engineering. Ebe onye ebia bia kwasara, that spirit, ya bia kwasonye ahụ. Need to hit that school. Don't need to be schooled. Going to school is to acquire methodology, to straighten that talent, that ikenga, that ABIA has brought into one. Now, that is what engineering is. And in this part of in other parts of the world that develop, when they find such people, they put professors around them to work with them. And through the interaction with professors and those who have acquired formal education, they now become brushed up. And of course, those who must work with such people who are naturally talented, those who work with them must speak their language. If you're a mathematician, you are an engineer, you're a medical doctor, and you want to work with such people, you must be schooled in the language of such people. Because they are the ones that have the natural gift for the cosmic. And that gift is what they have to bequeath to the society. We have such people like Damien from Mbise, who use roots and herbs to jam Imo State Broadcasting Service, the radio imported. And they say the thing did not last. But today, I think Japan or America came and carried them. And from what the knowledge, we started having batteries that you can now use to do solar. Batteries that you use in charging a lot of things. So I now asked them, I said, those herbs, did you study their chemical components and how they can be improved? They said, no. I said, look, such people, we do not send them to formal schools, because they didn't go to formal schools before they started performing. There's something they brought. We that went to formal school is we go to acquire skills on how to formalize what is natural. What is natural is natural. From the ocean, you bring the water that you want to use, make it usable. Because if you use the ocean water raw the way it is hard. So if you want to use the ocean water, you want to use it to run your seaway, you want to use it to drink, you have to purify it and take out the salt and some other impurities in it. So that is the natural world. And those of us who have acquired formal education, we have acquired formal education on what we did not find, we did not establish.
Yes.
So we now work hand in hand with those who brought a natural talent to the world. In the process, we become equals. And that is why what we call, I've forgotten, such people are usually made professors. They are usually given something, there's a name they call those kind of professors in the university because of their contribution. And we send students to them to learn the natural way and formalize what they know. But it's a like I said, our education system is heads downwards. Like I used to say, the African tree of development, it's upside down. The branches are down and the roots are up to the sky. So the branches will try to develop some adventitious roots that will not hold firmly to the ground, while the roots will try to develop some leaves that will just keep the tree at minimal point of survival. That's what we are. But if we don't take time, that tree will die. If we don't place it back on his roots. So that's just a little I have to say. People who have natural talents, the way to educate them is to cooperate with them, give them patent rights, surround them with those who have formal education, and give them befitting title that will make them pour out their talent. In the process of interacting with those who went to formal school, they themselves acquire formal skills. And then with that way, they will be able to communicate in organized form what God has given to them, that they brought to the world. If we don't do this, then we don't understand God as a foundation of development. Because the secular side of God is that God is God because he's able to bring itself into existence without any external help and projected forth physical universe all by itself. That's what made God God, intellectually speaking. So religion only teaches us how to be loyal to God, praise God. Praise songs are good. They lift up the spirit. They make God to know that we love him, we obey him, we honor him, or we honor whatever God is, whether him or her, I don't know. But it is philosophy that teaches us how to behave God. And how to behave God is the power of invention. Not invention in itself, but the power that brought about invention, mind. And that mind must be understood in our own local language. If we do not do this, we do not know God. There we go.
Yes. Yeah, guys, UD, before you say anything, I just wanted to add that. Thank you, Dibia Chidozie. I just wanted to add this. When this gentleman came back from England and he went to the village in Abreba, and all the elders came and lined up, and all the villagers lined up, and he was there to tell them what he had learned. And after he talked and talked and talked and talked, everybody's listening to him, but he's speaking in English, British, English. And eventually, one of the elders stood up and told him, "Get down from there, get down, step down." And he was so proud of himself because he was speaking so eloquently in English. But the elder said, "Get down. You didn't learn anything. You come here and you see Igbos. Ghana's right, Biki. Or if I see America, Chemosa. Or if I see Chemosa. But you haven't learned anything. You're an embarrassment." So the poor guy started there. The elders started walking away. People started walking away because the essence of your education must somehow be connected to who you are. Otherwise, you're a glorified servant. You just learned other people's ways, but you can't express your own way. So he was trying to tell them all that he had achieved in England, right? Not America, England. But he couldn't articulate in Igbo. He couldn't do that in Igbo, either because he purposefully didn't want to articulate in Igbo, because to him, having learned in England, speaking Igbo, I believe, if you want to show that you've learned, you've got to do it in English. So he stood there just going on and on in English, and they told him, "Get down, you haven't learned anything." And they walked away from him. So whereas it's important for us to learn and articulate in English, we must also be able to articulate in Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa or Efik or Ibibio or whatever our language is. Therein lies your pride. And you have to have the courage to stand out there and speak it. And one more thing, when I went to, as a representative of Godian religion, when I went to Nairobi, Kenya, and then all the delegates, came from different parts of the world. This is a World Council of Religions for World Peace. And at that conference, you had the Spanish, you had the English, you had the French, you had the German, it was world religious leaders that were there. But each one of them chose to speak, to address us in their language. Now, not because they can't speak English, but they wanted to address us in their language, and then we had to have an interpreter, okay, to interpret in English from the language that they're speaking. But the Africans were the only ones that it didn't occur to them that they also have a language. So they'll stand up there and speak in English, but the French will speak in French. The German will speak in German. You know, the Spanish will speak in Spanish. And have somebody interpret it in English. And that is to send a message to the world at that congregation. That gathering, that they respect and honor who they are, and they want you to do the same. They want you to honor and respect who they are. So I went to the Archbishop of Angola, and I told him that you know, you cannot get up there and speak English. You can speak Swahili. Do you speak Swahili? He says yes. I said, well, you go up there and you speak in Swahili. Address us in Swahili, and then I have them have somebody to interpret Swahili. When he got up there, Dibia, think about it. When he got up there, okay, I've lost. Okay, there we go. When he got up there, and I told him that I will create some kind of ruckus if you get up there and you speak English and you don't speak Swahili. So when he got up there, he started speaking Swahili. The head of WCRP, never forget him. He ran up to him and whispered in his ear and said, "Oh, you have to speak English because we can't understand you." He says, "Well, it seems to me that you have interpreters for all the different languages. Well, you need to find one who can interpret Swahili." And so they started scrambling until they found a man who could interpret what the Archbishop was saying in Swahili. All right. And of course, people started applauding because they knew what happened. Because at that moment, we're saying our language is just as important as everyone else's, you know, and we can speak our own language and you can interpret it. We can have somebody interpret it so the rest of you can hear it, just like you've done with all the other languages. So speaking in our language is so important, and it's going to be our responsibility. At some point, we're going to have to understand that nobody can define us but ourselves. You know, we have to speak for ourselves and define ourselves, and not expect other people to do it or get angry when other people look down on our ability. So I fully agree with Dibia Chidozie that part of learning or sincere learning certainly comes from our ability to use our own languages to address the world, to speak to the world, and not just to let them know that we too we value our own language, but we also, expect that you should value it as well. Dibia, you go on.
Yeah, I mean, this topic, encompasses a whole lot of stuff, and you could take it to all manner of directions, and just go on forever, because what we're experiencing now and what we've experienced in the past all require courage. Whether
yes.
you're a person of African ancestry, melanated or not, whether you're European, Viking, whatever, courage is what is required to better your condition, so to speak. No courage is required if things are great, right? Things have to be kind of messed up for you to have courage. And there are all kinds of courage, courage to just face daily life or whatever. Just being born requires courage to survive this life, understanding that you are born to die. So no matter what you do, you're still going to be dead. So you don't go through your life retreating in fear that you're going to die. You have the courage to face everyday adversity and say, you know what, I have limited time on this earth. So while I have the time, I have the courage to get up, make the best that I can out of the life that I have for the time that I'm going to spend on this earth, so that my days will be better, and maybe I will influence people a little bit better.
That's right.
Dibia Chidozie talked about in education, institutions of higher learning must start with the discipline of the humanities, the curriculum, must be first and foremost before you talk about anything else. So defining humanities, it's broken down as a group of academic disciplines that study human culture, history, values, and human experience. And you could see the wisdom in what he just said, right? Human culture, human history, values, and human experience, which seems to be what we're lacking right now in most African communities, not all. Burkina Faso is an example of not all. Some people are actually listening. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, we're yet to see where it all ends up. But so far, exercise and courage, those are three major modern examples of what that means. Against all odds, against the powers of Europe, against nuclear bombs and the French army and the against all that, terrorism, Boko Haram, Iran, whoever sponsors those terrorists, they all do it, right? The Arab world, European, they all got Africa in their sights to keep us destabilized, confused, while they're pillaging our resources and human capacity. So that brings us to the topic of Pan-Africanism, what that means, okay? A worldwide movement and ideology that, seeks to unify people of African descent, both on the continent and on the global diaspora, based on belief that we all share common history, culture, and destiny, right? You need that to be revolutionary, and you have to be revolutionary to change your condition. And one of the most important aspects of this revolutionary mindset is courage. And to have courage, fear is usually the first thing you have to entertain. Once you're able to deal with that fear, now the courage to deal with it, to come up and do something to change your condition manifests.
Yeah.
So we'll dive a little deeper into what he was talking about, what we've talked about from the beginning, right? How do we address our condition? What does that entail? Why are we more interested in temporary conditions or things that will yield something now and not look at the long-term benefit of having courage to face our fears, to change our condition? It involves setting up the kinds of institutions, curriculum from kindergarten to primary school to high school to university, where you start with the humanities so that we can understand the shared destiny and the importance of umoja, unity, Ubuntu, the idea that I am because you are. That is part of our makeup, and this is part of what we need to be able to get to the next level. Courage requires long-term planning. You have to be courageous enough to say to yourself, it may be rough now, but the morning shall come, right? Jesse Jackson.
Yes.
The morning shall come. You're looking forward to the morning. The night is long. But the suffering is long through the night, but the morning will come. This too shall pass. But it requires knowledge, concrete, solid plans, understanding of your condition, how you got here, what is going to be required to get you out of it to the next level where you could compete with the rest of humanity and do the same thing. If you look at our history, it's wrought with courageous and revolutionary conditions and situations that required sacrifice. You look at Burkina Faso, Mali, so on and so forth, right now, challenging the powers to be, standing on their truth, like you always say, having the courage to face what needs to be faced, to do what is necessary. You talk about the Martin Luther Kings and the voting rights in the United States, where they marched the streets, facing dogs and bullets and cannons and, the police, violence, being stoned, lynched, all that stuff. It required courage to stand and face the bullet, face all the dangers that you have to face to change your condition. And it took those African Americans in the United States that were willing to face the bullet, the dogs, and everything else to get that voting right and improve their condition. It took them to fight in all the wars here to get the respect that they need or to prove to their tormentor that just as good. And if you look at the record of Black folks that, participated militarily in Western wars, I think the record speaks for itself. the most courageous units in military history, modern military history, from World War I onward, were black folks. You talk about the Tuskegee Airmen that never lost a bomber under their care. The only, how do I say, Air Force squadron all over the world that could make that claim. And they're black folks. You look at all the inventions in the world, over 85% of them that were made by people of African ancestry. It required courage, even though they didn't even get the credit for all the inventions. Marginalized, but they still have the credit, the courage to hang in there, to stand up on the bus and not give up your seat, to help the United States land on the moon. It took courage to do all that stuff. It took courage for Barack Obama to become the first black president of the United States. It took courage for Ghana through Kwame Nkrumah to get its independence, Zik, in 1948, to demand in the British Parliament, as the guest of the Queen, that he expects the British to give up the power for, to all the West African colonies in 15 years. It took Ahanke Okonyo and Obo of Benin to join forces in 1962 in Port Harcourt to, bring about Gordianism, which is the marriage between the National Church of Nigeria and the Cameroons and the Ido National Church of the Benin people, headed by Oba Ekenzwa II. It took courage for Stephen Biko to say his most famous quote about, the oppressor having control of your mind as their greatest weapon. The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. We need courage to break the chains. It's not just about the physical part of it. We have to understand that one of the reasons why we got into the condition that we are in now, both here in diaspora and on the continent, is that somebody tied us to a tree and started whipping us and redefined us and told us that our name is Toby. And we said, no, I am Kunta Kinte. I'm Utemezu Onyo. I'm Dr. Onyo Hosemiri. And whatever your name might be, I'm Amobi Ajolo, they beat you. No, your name is Toby. No, I am Unkulu Nkulu. Boom. They kept beating you until you accepted that your name was Toby. And they associated the physical pain and the mental torture to be relieved of that by changing who you are, accepting how they defined you, the name they gave you, redefining your God, your religion, your educational system, the clothes you wear, the language you speak. Change everything about you, make you forget your history, redefined it, rewrote it for you. Taught their history in school, not yours. I mean, how many people in Africa, at least my generation when we were growing up, knew anything about people like Moshe Shu? I didn't even know about Nzinga until I came to the United States. The only one I knew about was people like Mansa Musa, Usman Danfodio, what's her name? Fatima, Amina. Yeah, they were all courageous and everything, but I'm going to kind of leave Amina out of it and just talk about the Secretaries and the Usman Danfodios and all those people. They Islamized West Africa, so they may be your hero. You may praise them in schools. You may write about Mali being the oldest university, which it was. You might talk about all that. But Mali was dealing with Islamic scripts. It had nothing to do with you as a Black African. So yes, it's the oldest university, but I don't take no pride in it, because the only thing that was cultivated there was the Islamization of West Africa. And that was it. Beyond that, tell me, honestly, what did you get out of Timbuktu, looking at your condition right now? Because when you brag about it, and you brag about all the knowledge, and you talk about all the Black writers and all those people that helped to build this university and all that, you talk about all that good stuff. How many of the scripts in there is Black African? Tell me. How many scripts in there have something to do with the Ghanaian? That has to do with Igbo man? Nothing. So in Timbuktu, there's nothing in there that talks about Chineke. It talks about Muhammad. It talks about Allah. It doesn't talk about anything about Imomiri, Fejoko, Ikenga, Iguji, Ipiali, Ekurochi. They talk about all that stuff, so you know nothing about it. So in the end, it's just as important to really take a look at humanities, where you come from, your history, and quit coalescing around doctrines and philosophies that till today continue to justify our enslavement. We have to gut the system in Africa, just like they're doing in Burkina Faso. They're not spending time. They're Muslims. They're not building mosques. They were offered like 200 and something mosques to be built all over by Saudi Arabia or somebody like that. They refused it because the people in Burkina Faso, they don't need the mosque. They need freedom.
Freedom of the mind. Freedom of their minds.
They need themselves first before they need Allah. Yeah. They need their mind before they need Allah. Because if they're not in control of their mind, they will not be experiencing the rebirth that they're currently experiencing. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, believe it or not, are the heroes of the Black world right now. Do you know why? Even though they have fear, because fear is very healthy, it allows you to develop a strategy. But they overcame it. Overcoming fear doesn't mean that you're fearless. But if you're fearless, you're stupid. It simply means that you have the courage to face it. And they have the courage to face it. And because they have the courage to face it, they're probably the most self-sufficient country in Africa right now, with Boko Haram and everything. So they proved that even with the terrorism going on around, they can still do it. Why? Because they have the courage. And if you have the courage, then you have commitment. Then you understand that it's going to take some work. It's going to be long-term. There's no satisfaction of anything right now. It took how many years to break it all down and destroy and enslave and colonize? It took hundreds of years for that to happen. And I'm here to tell you, it's going to take a little bit more time for us to be truly emancipated. But you have to have enough courage and patience to understand that it will take a while. It's long-term strategy, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You have to have the right leadership that is Pan-African in its thinking. Dibia just mentioned it in his delivery. That's what it's going to take. If we, people of African ancestry, don't understand that to overcome, we have to get to this mindset where we understand that it's not going to be short-term. Short-term strategies is just to get you to the next step. Short-term strategies is not long-term. Satisfaction now, then tomorrow. It's like the business guy who wants to get sale, but doesn't really care. The product is good, but he's not interested in the customer service. So with a product that is good and allows the customer service, the customer ain't coming back for the second time. Or you got a lousy product, but you got good customer service. The customer is about to come give you a second chance to make it right. And if you do make it right, you got a customer forever. That's just the way life goes. So instead of looking at, I'm trying to make the money right now, tomorrow I start looking for another customer. It's better for me to give the best service with a good product, then give the buyer the best customer service in the world so that tomorrow they will come back. Tomorrow they will tell their friends about me. And that's what we do here in Chisholm Live. We have the courage to do the right thing, give you the right information so you could talk about us and share it with your friends. And then maybe as time goes on together, we begin to disseminate this information that is going to require a level of Pan-African way of thinking, which will help us develop the courage to overcome our fears. That's what it's going to take. A mindset that says that in this, we're all in it together. There's no Haitian, there's no Senegalese, there's no Nigerian, there's no African-American, there's no Jamaican, there's no British, Asia. It is all about Umoja, Ubuntu, Idinotu, unity. That's what it's going to take to have the courage to overcome. And that's my
so it is. Thank you, Dibia. You did. Amen. You said a mouthful. I just want to share something for the benefit of those who don't know it, but maybe some of you are aware of it. Many years when I was a child, when dad used to take us to church, there was a song that they used to sing. It has different verses that really suggest that it's going to take courage for us to really get connected to our spiritual well-being, to our culture. And it's not a matter of you not your belief in whatever your culture is illegitimate. No, it just means that ours is just as legitimate, and we need to look at it. That song, I'm not going to sing it. I'm going to just share the verse. It says, I will worship the God of nature. I will never believe man's doctrines. The sun, the moon, and the stars and the seasons of the year show me exactly what God is. That means wherever I am, right where I am is my reality. That is where my God is. God of many names. Nature is the same all over the world. It takes courage to acknowledge that.
Yep.
Nature is same all over the world. Life, growth, and death for man, beasts, and plants. The beasts and the plants did not eat Adam's fruit. Their death follows nature's plan.
Oh, Lord.
From me to God, there's no distance. There is no room for bishops and priests. Nature can show me the handiwork of the divine in hills, land, vales, and dales. So how come my life, my growth, and my death, what God kept me before missions came, the God of my life, the God of my people, is the God that I know. Man cannot show me who God is. From now onwards, man cannot deceive me. This world was made by the divine, not by man. And I am going to walk along with nature. I'm going to follow nature, because that's where I will find that energy that's called Chineke.
He said.
Now, this was many years ago. Many years ago.
Yeah.
And these people had that courage. And you sit in that small church, Dibia, remember? And you see all these people coming from wherever, and they sit there and they sang that song. It's because they have the courage, they have accepted that they have the responsibility for the growth, for their growth or lack thereof. They're responsible for their psychological, emotional, financial, you name it. But we are not going to be able to achieve anything if we cannot embrace our own truth. There's nothing wrong with embracing our truth, because this is who we are. That's faith in action. All our courage is often rooted in faith in ourselves, our abilities, and a higher power, our connection to this higher power. Faith, truth, steeped in faith, allows us spiritual trust so that we can take the risks to express ourselves, to make difficult decisions that weaker people are not able to do, to step into the unknown, knowing we are supported by the divine. That is what it means for you to have courage. Courage is not the fact that you can go into the ring and fight. That's part of it. But spiritual courage requires that we stand firm on our beliefs and our values, and quite frankly, our progress as an African people. You know, because you cannot, what we're doing is we're allowing other people to define us, and we allow them to do it. And then we get angry that they're doing it. When you allow other people to bring you down, that's exactly what they do. Survival of the fittest. Everybody's trying to survive. Everybody wants their own people to survive. And they will step on your neck, on your whatever is necessary for them to move themselves forward. But the question is, how willing are you to survive? And your survival does not require that you master their own way of thinking. You master yourself, master your own way of thinking, master the ways of your culture, your ancestors. That's where you can stand up and say, I am what I am. But you cannot say, I am what I am because I can regurgitate Eurocentric thought or Asian thought or whatever else that's not African. We must get to the point now that we stand on firmly on our beliefs and values and encourage ourselves, our children, our communities, members of our communities to speak our truth, because it's uncomfortable. Truth is very uncomfortable, but you've got to have the courage to speak the truth. We have to advocate for justice. And what is that justice I'm talking about? We're talking about justice so that our people are recognized as individuals who have the same quality, the same abilities as everybody else. In the face of adversity, we must have the courage to stand firm and say, like Dibia Yudi said, I am what I am. I am what I am. But when you say you are what you are, it's not because you have PhD in what? In someone else's way of life? Because you can regurgitate that, because you can write that. But if I ask you to write the same thing in your language, if I ask you to express yourself from the perspective of your cultural vision, you are not able to do that. So it allows us, when we can speak for ourselves, when we have the courage, we're able to face challenges. And those challenges can be physical, it could be personal. But for us to be able to advocate for our social justice, we must be able to articulate it in our own way, in our own voice, in our own language, so that the people in the back can understand. Articulation in foreign languages doesn't always, people will stand in the audience, and they're Igbo people, they're standing in the audience, and there you are articulating whatever it is you're talking about in English. Half of them don't even know what you're talking about. So if you want to articulate, if you want to advocate for anything or make significant changes in your life or other people, you must have the courage to confront these things from your own perspective. Damn, excuse the expression, the consequences. If people don't accept it, that's just too bad. Because I don't know of Europeans trying to articulate what they feel in Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa or in any African language. They articulate in English. That's their language. And then they dare you to say anything different. They want you to accept their articulation, their thoughts. And then, we agree. And so we abandon our own because we're fearful. We don't have the courage. So anyway, before I hand this to Dibia Chedozie for closing comments, we must strengthen our own inner resilience through our courage. The courage to speak about our fears and face our fears. The fears what I'm talking about is not necessarily a monster on the road. The fears I'm talking about, the people who create the fear, is our own people who are not comfortable with who they are, or foreigners who want to tell us who we are. And then we fall, we just kind of fall in the shadows. We don't want to raise any storm. We don't want people to hate us. But you cannot shine. You cannot become somebody that other people are afraid of, or somebody that other people praise, or other people feel quality, that you're a quality person, if all you do is just say yes, 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 yes. You can't shrink into greatness. You must step forward, come out of the shadows and say, yes, 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 this is what I believe. And I can say it in my way. So we must we must face our fear of other human beings who can articulate who they are, and we choose not to articulate who we are. We have to be able to grow spiritually and emotionally. That's the only way we can support our journey and also our own people's journey. It is an imperative that we step out of our comfort zone. And what is our comfort zone? Believing and accepting other people's way of life and other people's way of thinking at the expense of our own. Dibia Chedozie, closing remarks, please.
Yeah, it's a nice one today. I must thumbs up for you for picking up this topic. And Dibia Charger, you have said a whole lot. And all I need to say is that we should go and study Achibes Things Fall Apart because it tells the story, by telling the story of the Igbo people through Konkwo, Umofia and his environment. He told the story of the black man.
Mm-hmm.
When we finish reading that, we should go and read Mbuki Wachengo's Petals of Blood, especially the character called Karega, the school teacher, who went to class one day and said, "Peoples, let me teach you the history of Mr. Blackman. In the beginning, he had a body, he had a spirit, and he had a soul, mind. Then came the administrator who battered the body. The black man still fought back. Then came the teacher who battered the black man's mind. The black man still fought back. Then came the missionary who slaughtered the black man's spirit. And since then, he's been dead. And that spirit is what Achebe defined as a tiny rope that held us together. But as soon as the white man came and used his priest to put a razor to it, things fell apart, so that the falcon can no longer hear the falcon. And that's what happened when that razor was put in the middle of the people of Umofia.
Yes.
Konkwo, the courageous individual there, was left alone. He became a lone ranger. Others abandoned him. So he saw himself alone, that he had nobody with him. So the only thing left was for him to commit suicide. That should not be the way out for us. We should do more than committing suicide. This is the time for us to go deep and learn the culture of silence, build a nucleus that we are trying to do. What we are choosing Ndumodu show is for us to enlighten people. If we really want to build, we need to build a nucleus. And that nucleus must target what William Wilberforce said. Stop slave trade. It is barbaric. Enslave them in their own land so that legitimate trade replaced slave trade. And with legitimate trade, we became slaves in our own country, in our own land, because white-collar education was given to us. So the greatest courage for us is that we must undo what was done in the Berlin conferences of 1884 to 1885. Balkanization that was meant to destroy the soul of Africa, ethnicity, by heading us together in different countries today we call Nigeria, Ghana. The greatest courage we must have is that we must begin to train our children of today that when it is their time, they must restructure these countries, these conglomerates of European. These conglomerates of European creation, they must decentralize them into confederations, the way it is in Britain, the way it is in Canada, the way it is in Switzerland, whereby ethnic groups cooperate by having their own individuation. Because if you don't have your own individuation, if my five fingers do not have its individuation, they will not cooperate. That problem is the greatest courage we must work towards. If not, we will not have a ground to stand upon in the future.
Dibia, you did very briefly. We only have 3 minutes left, so.
Yeah, for me, on a personal note, I do believe that the greatest act of courage is to question everything publicly.
Yes.
Not in your heart, because I don't know what you have in your heart unless you say something about it, either verbally or through your actions, right? Otherwise, resistance on a personal level is meaningless. because it doesn't result to anything. But to question everything, the institution that has kept you subjugated, is the greatest act of courage that you could exemplify. Burkina Faso is doing it, and look where they are. Martin Luther King did it. We got the voting rights. Nnamdi Azikiwe did it in 1948. Nigeria became independent in 1960. Kwame Nkrumah succeeded in doing it 1957. So on and so forth. Mandela spent 29 years in jail. Did it. It took courage. To change your condition, you must have courage to do it. And whatever we may think we are now, whatever we think we may have achieved as a people, voting rights, independence in a lot of African countries, at least on paper anyway, was done by people that were courageous, had fear, they were courageous. The Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, all those leaders that sacrifice something. See, sometimes it's not just sacrificing your life physically. It's also sacrificing relationships. It's also sacrificing, your personal safety for the best interest of people of African ancestry, not just for yourself. So you put yourself on the line to do that. One thing I just want to point out real quickly. One of the greatest acts of courage that I think we can exemplify in the future is to understand that the idea of writing in Igbo is not about Agbewede, because those things still use the European or whatever alphabet, right? So you cannot have your own script and language if it is based on the a script of the people that enslaved you, and you just form their phonetics using their own script. So if you have a book written in Igbo and it has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H in it, you're fooling yourself. If you write something in Swahili and it is not in a Swahilian script, you're a fool, because you're more interested in short-term satisfaction than not long-term solution. The Chinese don't have A, B, C, D in their script. Indians don't. The Japanese don't. People from Thailand don't. The Mayans don't. But look at any African script that you see in modern day terms, it's all European. But we have insipidity. We have all kinds of African scripts from ancient times. It may not take into consideration the ABCDs that in modern times, that's what we use to make sounds and all that. But you could at least develop it in such a way, and through kindergarten, where we understand that if I make a mark like this, it means an A. If I
We've run out of time, Judy.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, but if we get to do stuff like that, that's true courage. Change the language by changing the script. That's my presentation.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Our conversations are usually quite interesting. I would like to go even further if we could. But in conclusion, the spirituality of courage invites us to recognize that the true strength lies within us. It encourages us to align our actions with our deepest values, face our fears with faith, and live authentically. Living authentically means that we see the world and describe the world from our own perspectives, our own language. By cultivating courage, we not only empower ourselves, but also inspire those around us. We create a ripple effect of strength and resilience in our communities. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. Continue to add to your repertoire because of what you've learned from us. You never learn too much. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks on Chism Live. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's been a wonderful experience having you here. And we're looking forward to, as I said earlier, we're looking forward to seeing you next time. Dibia Yudi, thank you so much for your very insightful contributions. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.